So, hi. My name is Wilhelm. I work in Sweden as a network DevOps guy at an open access provider called Via Europa. But this talk is mostly about my research and development part. Catalog zones. Me and Aksu was having a talk, I think it was a year ago, maybe more, and we tried it out. I'm going to go through what it is in a bit, he convinced me to go here and talk about it. This is actually my first talk at a technical conference, so new thing. Yes, so catalog zones. What it is at its core is a DNS zone that describes other DNS zones, metadata, and it's not a new concept. The current draft, the current IETF draft describing this dates back to 2005. Through the Paul Dixie meta zones draft and the ISC draft. And I want to be clear that I have not been involved in writing this draft. I just think it's a neat proposal. And Power DNS also has its auto primary feature, which kind of fills the same niche. And it's currently known as draft IETF, that. And what's interesting is that there was a version 1, which Bind had support for, still has. But now it's kind of gaining traction. There's a version 2 coming that's been drafted, and it's gaining traction. I'm going to go through implementations later, and so it's a zone that you can distribute via AXFR, because usually when you have DNS set up that you host yourself, you have primaries and secondaries, and you need to get the secondaries updated with all the zones. So you might have Ansible or some other automation to make sure that all the secondaries have the correct zones. And this is kind of the problem that catalog zones solve. So instead of having automation, you have a zone describing other zones. The producer being the one serving the catalog zone to the consumer. Another main core feature is that it's interoperable, since it's all DNS zones. The main requirement is actually on the secondary servers. The master doesn't actually need to know what a catalog zone is, even though it helps with the tooling. The thing that got me kind of excited about catalog zones is that it makes it easier to have different organizations mirroring their DNS. You could have, for example, me and a friend exchanging tsig keys and the catalog zone, and then we can mirror all our domains between each other, which helps decentralizing DNS hosting and maybe makes it more viable to self-host DNS, which I think it's a good thing, because sure, Cloudflare is great and the big registrars are great, but they're pretty centralized. So I think it's good if it's easier to self-host your own DNS and other services for that matter. Yes. But of course, you can also use it instead of your automation when you control both the primaries and the secondaries. The secondaries essentially can just have a static config. For example, if you spin it up in need these, for example, the config is just static, except when you need to rekey the tsig transaction, the tsig key. That's the only real thing you need to change, and adding new catalog zones. Yeah, so here we have example catalog zone, pretty regular zone, txt value, establishing that it's a version 2 zone, the one that's widely supported. And here we have a long string of characters, which can be anything. It could be example dot zones. Important part is being a unique string per domain dot zones dot the catalog zone. And also, this zone is not supposed to be on the internet. It's always supposed to be shared between the primaries and secondaries. So NS is set to invalid. And just to show that it is interoperable, one of the main features. Here, I don't expect you to read through it all, but here we just have a quick setup, creating a catalog zone and a tsig key, and just setting the example.com zone to be part of the catalog zone I have. And we also need to make sure that the secondaries get the notifies, as the NS post should be set to invalid. And on the this is power DNS. And then on bind secondary, we have a little stanza describing the catalog zone, just as you would any other secondary zone. And you have in the options stanza, you have a part describing each zone. And yeah, you have to also define which primary that all the zones transferred over catalog zones should have. And yeah, there you see as well. We only have the catalog zone defined, and we added the example.com zone, and it sent the notify, the transfer was done, and the zone is being added by itself. So it's pretty cool. Of course, there are some security considerations, specifically for catalog zones. As it stands right now, all the software implementing catalog zones lack the ability to filter which zones are allowed inside the catalog zone. So, provided someone malicious, you could add a zone that actually belongs to someone else. It might be possible to fix this with at least in Power DNS with the Lua EXFR filter. I'm going to look into that. But apart from that, that's one big thing that I've found in my hacking around with this. And then of course there's the usual DNS hygiene, using tsig signatures and not the same tsig signature. Of course, if you send off your zone to someone else, not under your control, they will have your zone. That goes without saying. Should of course sign it, and yeah, maybe encrypt your zone if that's critical for you. Yes, as I was talking a bit about before, we have 3 different implementations implementing the catalog zone support on the secondary side, which is the one that matters really. Because on the primary side, it can be any catalog, any DNS primary supporting notifies and zone transfers, which is pretty much all of them. Yes, and with bind, you have to make sure that you set up a version 2 zone, because it has support for both. And if you want to interop, then you want version 2. Which is supported by Power DNS and not as well, as far as I know. Might be more, but this is also fairly recent. the version 2 got added to PowerDNS and not, and bind just within the last half a year for PowerDNS and within the last year for bind. So yeah. And yeah, that was pretty much the quick talk about catalog zones. If you're a DNS nerd like me and want to exchange catalog zones, feel free to hit me up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thanks, questions from anyone?
Will you be at the summit?
I will be at the summit.
Maybe everybody should just finish their talk off with that statement, or not. Other than Simon, questions? Any other questions? Thank you again. Next up is Sander.